All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea that is completely reshaping the future of work. It's kind of like a quiet rebellion against all these outdated rules, and it really exposes a huge disconnect in how we even think about productivity. And it all kicks off with one simple, pretty provocative statement. So this quote is from a speaker named Hamza, and it's basically the key to understanding a massive problem in the modern workplace. It's not just some witty one-liner. It comes from a personal story that shows just how out of date our ideas about management really are.
And that story, well, it begins, like a lot of stories do, on a totally normal morning. The time is 9:15 a.m., and a simple act of being 15 minutes late is about to spark a career-changing revelation.
I want you to imagine this. You're a graphic designer. You've already checked your emails from home, you're all synced up with your team, nothing is on fire. You walk into the office at 9:15, and your boss is just waiting for you. The work itself wasn't the issue at all. The problem? Your physical presence was being sacrificed on, as he put it, the altar of office discipline.
And you want to know the boss's reason? It's bad for morale. Seriously. That right there, that was the final straw. The idea that not being physically chained to your desk meant you weren't actually productive, well, that was the moment he decided he was going to quit. But not before proving a very important point.
So get this. For his last 2 weeks on the job, he stages this brilliant, silent protest. He arrives at 8:55 a.m. every single day. He sits at his desk and marathons entire movie trilogies: The Godfather, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. And then he leaves right at 5 p.m. on the dot. And the result? His boss praised him for doing a great job. I mean, it just perfectly captures the absurdity of managing by what things look like instead of by actual results.
Okay, so this story is more than just about one bad boss. It really points to a much bigger issue, which is that the entire operating system of management we're all using today is just fundamentally out of sync with how we actually work. And this brings us to a really interesting paradox. Organizations, they need management to grow and function, but people, especially the workforce today, they really don't want to be managed in that old school sense. So it raises this huge question, especially when you consider who makes up most of the workforce now. More than half, over 50% of the entire global workforce is now Gen Y, or millennials. I mean, these are people who grew up in a connected, fast-moving, decentralized world. For them, the old models of management aren't just a little inefficient, they're completely broken. To really understand why this whole system is so outdated, you have to look back. Our whole idea of the 9-to-5 workday, it comes directly from the Industrial Revolution. It was designed for factory assembly lines. But as the legendary Peter Drucker pointed out decades ago, today's most valuable asset is the knowledge worker. So the question is, why are we still managing creative professionals with a system that was designed for a factory floor? Well, the answer really boils down to two deeply ingrained and totally opposite beliefs about what actually motivates people. These were first outlined by a social psychologist named Douglas McGregor way back in the 1960s. So first, you've got Theory X. This is that traditional command and control mindset. It basically operates on the assumption that people are inherently lazy, that they hate their jobs, and that you have to constantly watch and control them to get any work done. Does that sound familiar? But then, on the complete flip side, you have Theory Y. It assumes that people are actually ambitious, that they're self-motivated, and that they can even enjoy their duties. A Theory Y approach basically says that if you create the right conditions, you don't have to control people, you just have to unleash them. So it seems pretty obvious, right? If we really want to unlock the potential of the modern workforce, we have to just throw out that old Theory X manual. It is time to embrace a completely new playbook, one that's all about creating the right conditions for people to do their absolute best work. So what does that actually look like? Well, it starts with giving 100% trust from day one. It means providing autonomy and space, and not just physical space, but creative space too. It's about co-creating, not just delegating tasks down a chain. It means building a real community.
In short, it's about focusing on the outcomes, not on counting the hours.
This quote just perfectly captures that shift in thinking. See, a manager focuses on the output, collecting the wood, hitting the metrics. But a leader focuses on the outcome. They inspire the team with a vision, they make them long for the sea. And you can actually see this playbook in action with modern leaders like Jay-Z. He built a music empire not by telling superstars like Rihanna or Kanye how to make their music, but by creating an environment where their own unique artistry could just thrive. He doesn't manage artists, he leads other leaders. And this really shows how a leader's actions are fundamentally different from a manager's. You know, a leader doesn't stand behind their team and say, go. They stand out in front of them and say, let's go. They go to bat for you. They get you the training, the mentorship, the resources. They push you with exciting projects. And then, and this is the most important part, they get out of the way and let you fly.
So let's circle back to that management paradox we talked about. If people don't want to be managed, but organizations need some kind of structure to work, what's the answer?
You know, if the whole purpose of a modern organization is to create meaningful experiences, and not just for customers, but for its people, then what does that mean for the traditional role of a manager? The answer is actually kind of shocking in its simplicity. The traditional role of management has no place in the future of work. It's obsolete. So you see, the solution isn't to find a better way to manage people. It's to stop managing them completely, and instead to cultivate leadership at every single level of an organization.
This completely transforms the role. You're no longer a boss who just directs traffic. You become a coach, empowering the team, a mentor who guides, a resource who clears the way, and a cheerleader who motivates and celebrates success. If you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this fundamental distinction. You manage things like budgets, projects, and processes. You don't manage human beings. You lead them. So we'll leave you with this final thoughts. Think about the best boss or coach or mentor you've ever had. I'm willing to bet they weren't just managing you, were they? No, they were leading you. So what conditions did they create that allowed you to succeed? And maybe more importantly, how can you start creating those conditions for others?